Hey everyone, this is Matt from Sorry I've Been So Busy. We got another re-release for you this week. Our episode with the hilarious Judah Friedlander. This is an episode where Judah talked a lot about the process of trying to put together his first stand-up special. And that special is coming out next week on Netflix, October 31st. It's called America is the Greatest Country in the United States. And Judah's hilarious, so I'm sure it'll be amazing. And it was really fun to talk to him, as always. So please enjoy myself and Andrew Goldstein, our conversation from a while back with Judah Friedlander. And stay busy, everybody.
Until I met my new best friend, all of my boys say I'm tripping. When they call, I'm not answering. They always get my voicemail 'cause I'm
All right, welcome. Alex, are we rolling? Yes, we're rolling. Welcome to another episode of Sorry I've Been So Busy, the podcast where we talk to very busy people about what they've been busy with, or not very busy people about what they've been pretending to be busy with. But in this case, we have a very busy person, a very exciting guest coming up. I'm here with my co-host, Andrew Goldstein.
At Ange Gold on Twitter. How are you, Matt?
That was record time. Well done. I'm very well. At Matt Goldich, I should mention. And we should also, of course, mention at Showbiz Studios on Twitter, so we can find out all about their other podcasts here at Showbiz Studios in the East Village. A cool respite from the hot weather here in New York City. They got a lot of great shows. And showbrizstudios.com. That's show, B-R-I-Z. Let's get right to our guest. We got a great guest today. Very exciting.
The world champ.
Comedian, actor, author, writer. Am I missing anything?
Mesh enthusiast.
I mean, there's just no way other to say it. The world champion, Judah Friedlander, is here.
Thank you. It's
Welcome,
a pleasure,
sir.
gentlemen.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence. This is
Yep.
great. We're right in your neighborhood, so it's not that we don't have to. We can edit that out. That's fine.
Yeah, it
You don't
wasn't
want
that
people-
far away. Yeah, no, I live fairly close.
Oh, that's good.
Yet,
Right.
I was still... Hold on, let's tally it up here. I was still a good, 18 minutes late.
Hey.
Yeah. Well, this is like we're really just diving right into what we do on this, which is, the minutia of why were you late? Would you lie to us about why you were late?
No,
Or would you tell
not
the
at all.
truth?
Yeah.
Was it important or was it not important? Or were you just...
It's a problem I have.
Yeah.
I think it's, I don't fully know what it is. I think, I always have a lot of things on my mind, and I
Yeah.
always have a lot of things to do, and I'm always behind on everything. So
Yeah.
instead of just, like when it's time to leave, I start thinking of, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and then I figure, it also takes me a little longer to get ready than I think, So
Yeah.
it's like I'm always,
I feel like as you get older, it gets harder and harder to leave the house because there are more things to do, and peeing takes longer.
Sure. Well, that's true for sure. But I'm
Interesting.
as I get older, more, I don't know. I think when you're younger, you're just like, what do I have to worry about? If I'm 15 minutes late, who cares? They'll,
Yeah.
but, I don't know. For some reason, I become more, I guess people.
was that your attitude? Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'll just be late. It's all
That's
good.
why I probably got fired a bunch.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That was never my attitude,
Yeah.
but
But Mike Lawrence, when he was here, was saying he has the opposite thing about where he has a hard time getting out of the house, but it's mostly just he feels like it's laziness. Like it's not like he was saying like he just showering is a real challenge for him, and he'll put it off till the last minute.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I felt it this morning because I tried to be out by 9:15 to get to where I had to be at 9:30, and I was peeing and it was taking really long, and I was like,
This is delaying me.
come on, finish.
Yeah.
Well, let's digress here for a second and delve into this. How long is the average piss that you take?
This one was longer than my usual.
6 minutes?
No, definitely not 6 minutes.
Okay.
But that would be a problem. That would be a red flag.
What's your record?
It's about 12 and a half minutes.
12.5 minute pee.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're the
Yeah.
world champ.
Well, as you get older, you build up more pee over the years.
Yeah.
So you have to put out more.
The other question would be, should the record go the other way? Like, if you set a record fast,
I've done
and
that
record
too.
time, like
Yeah.
1 second, and you were done,
Yeah,
you
yeah, about
finished,
half a
you got it
second.
all out.
Well, that's how dogs do it. If you walk a dog, they stop every 5 feet and pee a little bit on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see nothing wrong with that.
Nothing.
Like
I think
the-
humans should adopt that.
They like to mark their territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Judah, you're the guy who's like, you've done I mean, like, so I feel like every time we see you do something, you're like doing it amazing, and then it turns out like, oh, you can do this other thing also. Like, you know, I mean, I remember moving to New York and seeing you on stage all the time, and I was like, that guy's a great comedian.
Oh, wow, thanks.
And then all of a sudden you're in a movie, and it's like, oh, he can do that too. And then you're in 30 Rock, and it's like, oh, he's good at that too. And now you're an author and an artist. Well, you've been an author before, right?
Yeah, this is my second book. My first book was called How to Beat Up Anybody, and it was an instructional karate book.
Yeah.
And it was mostly, you know, photos and jokes.
Yeah.
Just completely ridiculous, you know, with photographic instruction on how to beat up Bigfoots and et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Important book, you know, because,
yeah.
you know,
People
know this, but, you know, deforestation is on the rise.
It's important.
And that's affecting the Bigfoot communities, and they're being forced out of their, you know, rural habitat and then into the suburbs and sometimes even the inner cities.
As they leisurely stroll, if you've watched that famous Bigfoot video where he just leisurely strolls through the camera frame.
Well, he was on guard. He wasn't leisurely. But that was actually proved to be a fake film.
Oh, that was fake.
Yeah, that one was fake. That's not what real Bigfoots look like.
Was it specifically the first
My
one?
book has real Bigfoots.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Real documentation.
Yeah.
It's the first time ever they're on film.
In the book.
In my first book,
The book
yes.
contains films.
Well, it's photographs.
Oh, photographs.
Yeah, it's photographic
Okay, yeah,
evidence.
yeah.
Stills. Still frames.
So it was specifically aimed at people trying to
It's
defend
educational.
themselves against Bigfoot.
It's educational.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we live in a corporate industrialized world, and that affects nature, and that affects us too.
Yeah. So you got to know karate.
What are we learning in the second book?
The second book is called If the Raindrops United, and the cover, which is also a cartoon in the book, is this raindrop that's probably about maybe a half a mile in diameter, and it's about to drop on the city. It looks like it's going to wipe out the whole city. And the basic meaning behind that is that you know, if there was a 5-minute light drizzle of rain, if all those raindrops actually got together and united, they can really have a lot of power. But as a 5-minute drizzle, they don't really do anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a metaphor for people. If people can actually, you know, come together on something, they can have a lot of power. It can be used for good or bad, but they can have a lot of power.
It's very, very meaningful.
So yeah, a lot of the drawings in this book are just like pure comedy. And then a lot are, you know, sort of like social commentary on bigger issues, whether it's racism, classism, gentrification, you know, different things. Here's one here. And a lot of them are simple drawings. And you look at it first and it's kind of simple, but then they get kind of complex. Like, now this one here, you might remember what a scalene triangle is. So it's a drawing of a scalene triangle where each side is of a different length. And at the bottom, you see another triangle where it looks like two sides are the same length and the other side's a different length. And it says that the bottom one is actually the same scalene triangle, but after it's had corrective surgery at the Isosceles Beautification Institute. So that's sort of it's kind of a, you know, geometry math joke, but it's also a comment on, you know, you're fine just the way you are.
Yeah.
Self-image.
Everyone's trying to be perfect these days.
You know,
change their way they look. And
yeah. And then here's one of a balloon flying in the air and a bloody severed arm and hand grabbing onto it. And it just says, sometimes you should just let go.
Yeah.
So,
and they're very simple drawings.
because,
deceptively
simple.
Yeah. They're actually.
What, when you put a book like this together and you submit, I don't know, 100 of these images with the descriptions, is there some annoying book executive that's like, I want 40 more?
Tomorrow. Yeah. That's a great question. Well, this book was a little different. I was given, you know, pretty free range on this, but, it's probably a couple years ago now, or maybe even 3 years ago now, I started doing a lot of drawing, and it was sort of a way to kind of combat anxiety with, you know, I was touring a lot, and, you know, you're busy anyways, and then when you're traveling a lot, it can, make things a little bit different because there's a lot of things you have to do, and you still have
Packing.
regular everyday life things to do, and just waiting around and
Sure,
stuff
of
like that.
course.
So to sort of combat, and then there's also a lot of sleep deprivation. A lot of people don't know this as a comic. Depending on what level you're at, but or what kind of venues you're playing, but there's often a lot of sleep deprivation involved because when you headline your regular kind of comedy clubs, the main way they get you to try to promote the club is by doing morning radio.
Yeah.
So and local TV.
The operative word is try to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't always work. So, the people who become famous before they go touring. That's actually the way to go.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, it's not
So
the way
there you go.
It's not the way I've ever done things.
If you're an aspiring comic, that's a great
Yeah.
tip of advice is become incredibly famous first. You heard it from
So
Judah.
it's horrible advice for if you want to be a good comic.
Right.
But if you want to have an easier lifestyle and get sleep as a comic, it's the way to go.
Yeah.
So I'm joking. It's not that realistic. But anyway, so when you go so basically you'll have to fly in one day, so you have to get up really early, and then the next day you have to get up at 5:30 a.m. and do 5 hours of local morning radio and TV, and then you have 2 shows that night, and then the same thing the next night.
Right.
So you have 3-4 days in a row where you're getting maybe 2 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
And sorry to interrupt.
So that adds to lack of sleep can add to anxiety.
Are you a
and stuff like
napper?
that.
Can you nap or no? You're not a napper.
Yeah, but after a while, it's it's not a healthy
Right.
lifestyle to be sleeping 3 hours, from
3
2:30
p.m.,
to 5:30, and then you're sleeping from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's that's not
it's weird.
That's not good for the body. But anyway, so I'm digressing. But so that's when I was really started because I always drew a lot as a kid, and even as a young adult, I did a lot of that. And then I kind of stopped for years. And it's interesting. This can tie into what we're talking about a little bit because when I was making the book, I was also started looking for old drawings I did when I was, elementary school or junior high or high school or after that in my early 20s. And when you look at my stuff, just notes of mine from early when I was doing stand up from maybe 19 to 25. Mm-hmm. If you look at my notes, there'll be, lots of just quick jokes or code words for jokes written down, set lists. And then there'd be lots of doodles and stuff. But then if I look at my notes from the past 8 years, it's all just to do stuff.
Yeah.
It's just to do, all these things to do, no doodles and almost no jokes because I'm just so caught up in trying to be caught up in all the things that I have to do. Because as you get older, like you were saying, there's more things you have to do.
Yeah. Well, and
so
to be fair, also,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but you've also already written all of the best jokes, so there's really nowhere else to go.
Well, no, that's a. Except for the jokes I haven't written yet, but yes.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. Fair point.
Yeah. But
those jokes were just a tribute to the great Jack Black, the Jack Black song.
I don't know. I don't even know that song. What song is it?
There's a song on his album,
Is it Tenacious D album?
D,
Uh-huh.
and it's called Tribute. Uh-huh. And it's this is not the greatest song in the world. This is just a tribute to that song.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you've stopped doodling, but now you decided to go back and look at your old drawings.
Yeah. So right. So but anyways, that was kind of like what this show's theme is about is the minutia of what you have to do. Yeah. It's I noticed that recently the past I don't know 10 years or so, as I've gotten busier, I get so caught up in the busy work of show business and not the art side of show business because it's almost like I can be my own assistant and I can do that full time and I would still get 20% of the stuff done that I should be getting done. Whether it's errands, whether it's bills, whether it's, someone sends you a script and you haven't read it and you have to get back to them and, plus you're trying to, work on your own stuff. So I'm
viewer, you have,
the listener,
the listener, sorry.
No, this is for the viewers out there.
Pieces of folded up paper, all sort of the same size, a stack of folded up white not loose leaf, but like printer paper.
Yeah.
These are your
All
to-do
folded
lists?
into-
Or these are your like to-do notes? Is that
No,
what these
this
are?
is
This is just
actually
a pile of
this
notes.
is
This is
stand-up
fascinating.
notes.
Oh, this
but-
is stand-up notes.
But
Okay.
some of these might be to-do lists also. That's why I just want to...
Judah's the first guest who's actually brought this stuff along with him, like the
Yeah.
evidence of what he's actually busy with. I mean, I guess some people have it in their phones, so technically
This is
they have it with
fascinating.
them, but
You
yeah.
know, it's so funny because when I watch you perform, you more than most, it seems, stream of consciousness, because you're doing a lot of talking to the people in the audience and then riffing off of that.
Sure.
But obviously, a lot of that is prepared.
Yeah, it's a mix of prepared and a mix of what you just said. And some of that is, I think some of my lack of organization as a person, because I'm not an organized person, and I try. I
Yeah.
just have very little talent for it.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating. But some of that in stand-up can be also a good thing, because if there are like a lot of stand-ups, who, they have a set list and they stick to it 100%, and that's like, that's very hard for me. I think I don't enjoy it as much, but also it's like hard for me. I'm much better at just winging it.
Yeah.
And,
But
or having a general outline.
That's the thing. Somewhere deep in your brain, I think you have some sort of organizational system that works for you, where something happens or someone says something, and you have the thing for it.
It's like
yeah.
a choose your own adventure
Yes,
book.
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a good example.
That's how I've
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
looked at your stage
Yeah.
presence.
Yeah.
If somebody, like you ask somebody where they from, and they could say Czechoslovakia, you go right into a whole thing about the Eastern Bloc, and it's like, well, he had to have had some nugget of what am I going to say if somebody's from the Eastern Bloc in the audience.
So
in my stand-up, it's a mix of that where if I ask someone a question, their answer, depending on what it is, will likely lead me in a certain direction of material.
Exactly.
And then sometimes, and a lot of that material actually came up with me coming up with something on the spot as well.
Right.
So it's, I do like, I probably do a little more writing on stage than some comics, and, I think writing off stage is super important, but, I do that too, but I also do a fair amount on stage. So some of those, when I'm talking to someone in the crowd and I have a bit that, I already have a bit that goes with the answer they give. That bit initially came from not having a bit and then sort of coming up with on the spot and then building it.
It's a lot of mental gymnastics.
So these are old. Are these old jokes and old drawings that you sort of rediscovered, or are these newer ones?
For the book, you
that
mean?
you're going through now. What do you have?
No, these are, I thought it was more to-do lists, but it looks like it's all set lists.
Yeah, from recent times.
Yeah, these are all
Okay.
recent
Yeah,
set
yeah.
lists.
But you had to go
Yeah.
back through old ones for the book, or you went back through
No,
old drawings?
well, I just did that because for the introduction of the book, I wanted to include some drawings from when I was a kid. So that's why I started looking
Who's
through all this
keeping
old
the
notes.
drawings from your kid? Are your
My mom actually kept
your mom has all that stuff?
everything.
Like hoarding style, or just doting mom style?
I think, my mom does a lot of art and used to do a lot of art, so I think it's more of an archival kind
That's
of
awesome.
Yeah.
an archival kind of style. And I have a big respect for children's art, and I think too many people don't.
It's
Their
the
kid
best.
does a drawing, and the parents are like, oh, this is cute, and then eventually it gets thrown out. I'm like, how do you throw that out? That's like to me,
Yeah.
that's like just such an amazing record of someone's heart and brain at a certain time.
Where did you physically do most of the drawings in the book? Do you do them at home and out and about? Or
Yeah, that's the thing, because I was kind of doing the drawing to sort of, like I said, sort of combat anxiety. Most of it was actually done with a stylus pen on my phone.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
I have some more recent ones here.
So in the airport, you're on your phone.
Yeah, just
Did you have any anxiety about man, if I lose this phone, there goes my book?
Yeah, but that's pretty much like the way I am with everything.
Right.
Even with stand up, and a lot of it's definitely OCD related, where I will record every set, audio of every set I do, and I usually will never label it, and I will never listen to it. Yet I record every single one. You know,
Right, but don't you go back for that writing on the stage to be like, what was that?
No, I should, but I usually get so sidetracked with just the day-to-day stuff where I'm like, oh, I got to go mail this thing. And then, I'm like thinking of like the things that I have to do now, which I haven't done yet. Actually, someone who I think
we're
used to
keeping
work,
you from
no, this is good. So one of the, so like I'm just trying to think of like some current things. So someone's making like an indie movie and they want me to do a role in it, and it films in Louisiana, and I'm not sure when, and I haven't read the script yet. And then there's another movie I think is funded by Netflix, and they might be interested in me for some kind of a role. And then there's someone who wants to do a web series, and they may have used to work for WWE or might even be for WWE Network. I'm not sure.
They are producing a lot of stuff.
Where they want me to do something. And these are people that that first emailed me like 3 weeks ago, and we still really haven't had a conversation yet. So it's more like just, like I would forget about it for a week.
Yeah.
And then I remember, and then it's just trying to get our schedules, together. And then there's commissions owed to a voiceover agent, where there's like 3 projects I did over the last year, and they just sent like a thing saying we need the commissions on this, and it's like for 5 different checks, all not big checks, and I can't remember, because I think some of them they already took the commission out when they sent it to me, and then some they didn't. And I don't know where these checks are, so I need to find these checks and stuff like that. So it's all kinds of just horrible organizational skills that give me much more work than I do need to do.
Yeah. Well, you do seem to have the first half of an organized personality. The fact that you're organized enough to tape every set, or maybe it's just the act of taping.
That's
like
compulsion. I think it's compulsion. I don't think it's organization. I think it's compulsion.
Yeah. So. What's a typical Judah Friedlander day? Let's say.
Right. So I'm telling you right now what's on my mind.
Yeah.
So those 3 things, those 2 possible films, that one possible,
who knows
series there. I have to, find these checks, and then I have some doctor bills. I went to a couple doctors that were that my health insurance didn't cover.
Yeah.
So I need to find those bills, and then I need to find, my return check so that I can mail that into the insurance company to get partially reimbursed.
How much of
I'm not even there. I should be writing this down now. These are things
don't worry, we're recording this.
I'm just remembering this right now.
We're recording this. Wait, I can go back and listen to it, and then I'll text you about
How much of your day is coordinating and silk screening T-shirts and figuring out your mesh hat situation? I'm very fascinated.
I haven't made a new hat in a while.
So you just have racks and racks. Did you score a bunch of ones that you didn't even have to pay for from 30 Rock?
No, I've been making my own hats for about probably 20 years. Right. And then when 30 Rock came about, I'd done probably about close to 20 movies before doing 30 Rock, and I did all kinds of different roles where I looked not like I normally look, whether it was American Splendor.
Right, you're like clean shaven and short hair.
So many other movies where I, do the whole chameleon thing and really play a character.
Great movie. I haven't seen
it. It is a really cool movie.
I watched it when it first came out. I got to go back and see it again. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah,
I didn't even know it was you.
Yeah, most people
first,
did it.
Yeah, it was very.
That's like the best.
I remember I saw it at Sundance, which it actually wound up winning. But my managers at the time were there, and I came on screen, and they didn't know it was me. They're like, it's pretty weird.
But so it's so funny because I know that you're a big wrestling fan, and so much of wrestling is like the gimmick, like the Ric Flair robe and the hair and the woo and the whole thing, and it's almost like intentional or not, there's a gimmick to the Judah Friedlander character. There's the jackets and the shirts and the hat and the hair and the beard. And
well, I think it's important. It's a gimmick, and it's also more than that, in a sense where.
But I use it in the most complimentary.
Oh, I know,
term
I know, because it.
Gimmick takes on a bad
for people who don't know the wrestling, jargon, gimmick is not a
That's the lifeblood.
It's not a put down. It's like having a gimmick is what you have to have.
There are lots of terms in wrestling that sound horribly insulting that are actually very
stink face for as being no, but
so anyways, but I view it a little more as a gimmick because everything I wear on stage not only has jokes behind it, but it has storyline behind it, and it has so it's not just like, when the Heart Foundation wore the, they had the pink, they had the sunglasses, it's there's like in the hat I'm wearing now, actually no, this is just a blank hat, but like the hats I wear on stage, the shirt, the windbreaker I have on stage, all of them have like historical storyline of the world champion persona behind it and jokes with it also. So it all like,
it's all part of the
it's all part of character and persona. So, it's not just like, I'm going to be this look kind of guy.
You're not just a hipster wearing a windbreaker and an ironic hat. Like, it's all calculated and for
Well, I was wearing, those hats before they were
Ashton
hip or
Kutcher.
anything. Yeah, way before him,
him.
And,
Wow. Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know.
He's a very good entrepreneur. He's on Shark Tank.
Is he on Shark Tank?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. Well,
I didn't mean to go with
It's
Ashton
okay.
Kutcher if he wants to come on the podcast.
Well, you don't have to kiss his ass now. You can just say,
You can have a medium.
Yeah.
You don't have to put him down or.
Yeah.
I'm lukewarm on Ashton Kutcher. I don't know where that came from.
Anyway,
Anyway,
he's had a fine career. Good for him.
Yeah. I don't know the guy. But what were we talking about?
I just like that because I know you're a wrestling fan, so I wanted.
Well, I think a lot of I think there's when wrestling's done right and it's done well. I shouldn't say right, but when it's done well, I think it's an amazing art form. And some of the wrestlers are amazing performers. And as a stand-up, I don't just take inspiration from like. Especially when you're starting out, just other stand-ups, but could be wrestlers, could be singers, could be,
anybody perform any performance.
Could be authors, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
That's amazing to think of. Like, I never really thought of it necessarily as like being inspirational. And then when it hit me was when I saw Inside Llewyn Davis. You know that movie?
Yeah.
I was like, this movie reminds me of stand-up. Like, for whatever reason, I
can see that a little bit because he's always trying to get gigs.
Yeah. For some reason, I was like, weird. But you have a lot of like varied interests. Like you have because wrestling and also the table tennis. There was that great article about you about the table tennis.
That article came out really nice. It was in New York Times.
It was really, really nice.
Yeah, a friend of mine who's on the U.S. Olympic team. I've known her, I think she's been living here about 7-8 years. I remember when she first moved here and I would take lessons from her sometimes and I still do sometimes. Ping pong's a great sport. I think it's good for the brain. It's good for thinking quickly. It's also a very good exercise and it's also fun. And I think as a sport, it's kind of, I think it's kind of now where soccer was like 30 some years ago.
Yeah.
Where it's looked at this weird mystery sport, like most people don't think it's a sport. It's some sport that only foreigners are good at.
Right. In little shorts.
Yeah, and so like most people have no knowledge that it's actually
because it's like a party game in this country. It's a novelty party game.
Right, and when you're a kid, it's just like
one
fun
cool kid
game.
In the neighborhood has a ping pong table.
Meanwhile, it's only insanely popular in the most populous country on earth. It's the only.
Well, it's actually big throughout many other countries.
I know,
throughout
right?
Europe, it's big, and
I'm just making the point that like. Billions of people worldwide.
Do you think Forrest Gump did a big service for getting ping pong out there as sort of like, wait, this is actually an athletic endeavor?
Well, I don't know, but people definitely
like that's the pop culture.
Still reference that movie if they talk about someone being good at ping pong, you know, which is wild because that movie came out quite a while ago already.
Who's the Pele? Who's the Babe Ruth of ping pong?
Well, I mean, it depends who you ask.
Is there
There's so many great players. I mean,
I saw it.
You literally could make up a name right now.
Of course, yeah.
I think I told you I went to the Beijing Olympics and I saw table tennis there. Which was awesome,
Ma Lin, this guy named Ma Lin won that.
Okay, fantastic.
And I know the woman who won it, and I'm not remembering how to pronounce her name correctly, so I'm not going to say it. And then
And your friend's going to Rio, right?
Yeah, she's on the team. Yeah, they only send, actually, to go to if you're a U.S. citizen and you want to play for the U.S. Olympic ping pong team, because we're like one of the weaker regions in table tennis worldwide, you have to, between Canada and the U.S., you have to be top 3.
Wow.
So each country isn't guaranteed to send anybody. If Canada has top 3, beats our top 3, Canada's top 3 goes. So, so you have to be top 3 in the U.S. and Canada if you want to go to the Olympics. But you're only representing the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. So there are basically 3 women go and 3 men go. So if you're number 4, you don't go.
Yeah. How many times a week do you play?
I play probably maybe 4 times a week right now. I usually play outdoors in Tompkins Square Park,
the public
right nearby.
And those are like stone.
Yeah, they're like cement tables, and they're permanent. They're great. This guy, Alan Good, who lives in the neighborhood, makes them, and he kind of sells them all over the city and the country. And it's Henge. I'll give him a plug. It's Henge Ping, Henge Ping.
Does that change your approach to the game, playing on stone versus playing on?
It does play different.
Like clay courts versus.
Oh, it's very different. First of all, you have the wind factor because you're outdoors, and the lighting is always changing,
of course.
And the bounce.
People in.
Well, there's all kinds of.
You never know.
Crazy stuff going on in
Tompkins Square Park.
Yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff.
I briefly got so into I was going to say I briefly had a joke in my act that I said I got so into table tennis that I just called it tennis, and I would call tennis court tennis.
I like that. Well, that's actually, you bring up a good point there. I actually call it ping pong and not table tennis, because when you call it table tennis, it makes it sound like it's some inferior subsidiary offshoot of tennis.
Interesting.
And
like
the rules of the
kids
game,
version of tennis.
Yeah, the rules of the game are completely different.
Yeah.
The strokes of the game are completely different. I mean, there's a ball, there's a net, there's a paddle, but it's completely different sport.
Just try going out there on a tennis court and serving by hitting the ball down on your side.
Your
see
side
what happens.
First.
See what the umpire.
Yeah, and the scoring's different. Yeah, everything's different.
What's amazing to me about that level of ping pong is that you can get to such a rhythm. A back and forth rhythm with such a small ball and such a small paddle, and to have such control over that type of ball.
Yeah.
Like I hit it, I try to slice it, and it goes, and it's just crazy because I'm such a novice. But I watch professional ping pong, and it literally is mind blowing the control that you're able to have with such a small paddle and such an unruly ball.
Yeah, it takes a long time, and the game is there's tons of spin. It's very fast, and it's a very technical, highly skilled sport. And so anyways, I try to be an advocate for that, and I try to be an advocate for soccer, which is my other main game.
Yeah, you're a big soccer fan, too.
And then, and a lot of the stuff, like in this book, the past, my act has changed a lot over the past 5 years. I started performing in Europe about 5 or so years ago, and that really kind of opened up my act and expanded my act where a lot of my act now is sort of like a mock town hall of my presidential platform.
Yes.
And within that, I dive into, many big issues, racism, corporatization, sexism, fracking, no matter, what it is, police brutality, all these, big issues. And in a satirical way.
Yes.
In a dark, twisted kind of way. But when I started going overseas, it's kind of like if you're in a bad relationship, all your friends see it, but you don't see it because you're too close to it. And when I started going overseas to perform, initially I thought I was going to be learning more about other countries, which I did, but I actually wound up learning more about my own country because at a distance you can sort of see it better. And then when you see other people in other countries the structure of their country, the way it's the laws are and politically and just how people act culturally is so different, you realize you can sort of see the way things are back home a little bit more. So that's when I started doing more talking about national issues and world issues and stuff like that. Still in a similar kind of style that maybe I used to do where there's still heavy persona. I'm very joke heavy, and
the bravado.
And you're right, and still doing satire, but even more so now, and then also with a lot of audience interaction stuff. Because like when I first started, I didn't have that. I was 19 when I first started, so if I had any persona, it was like the really young guy who's kind of dark and twisted, but you wouldn't think it. It's like, oh, here's this kid and he's doing all this really twisted shit, And then, but my act was always very joke heavy, one-liners, and it was always very audience, a lot of crowd work kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, but then, persona stuff started coming in much bigger, and it's always sort of changing.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. It's cool to like have
the world travel.
Still mix
I'm
it
sure.
up. Yeah. Well, now you can actually say you're the world champion and mean it because you've been to the whole world.
Yeah. That's how my act has changed.
Yeah.
Like initially, when I first started doing it, probably, 15 or so years ago, it was this sort of braggart character. And then it morphed into not someone who's bragging, someone who actually, this is real. He's not bragging. He's actually humbly stating just some things that he did that day, but they just happened to be fucking amazing. And so he was like a real life superhero.
Right.
And then more recently, it's been, still that, it's like when you win the world championship,
but like candidate,
you still have the title, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And you're still the world champion, it's like when, a British actor gets knighted, they're not out there fighting every day, but they're still
Well, yeah,
knighted,
when I worked with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, he was world champion in the 70s and the 80s, but it was 2006 and he was still the champion.
Yeah.
If you talk to him, he's the world champion
Right.
at all times. It's like being knighted.
Right. And I, as the world champ, am still undefeated.
Of course.
So I am still out there doing the karate matches. But so now my persona is more of, and then, it really became, kind of a satire on narcissism. A lot of my act was just like, so much of, I think society in general is the way it's constructed with social media and stuff is like, and Facebook, everyone has their Facebook page, everyone has their Instagram. It's like, it's designed to make everyone narcissists, even if you don't want to be one. That's how society is,
Yeah.
If you want to date somebody, you got to create a profile in a dating app and show every your thing. So it just becomes so a lot of my act was that, and there still is that, but now it's also a satire of America and American exceptionality, and then also I'm someone who stands up as the world champion. Not only do I just know the planet better than anyone, I also stand up for the rights of the people and the animals and the plants of the planet.
There you go.
As the world champ. So a literal
champion of others.
World
a literal champion.
Yeah. And in real life, I've, the past several years, I've been getting, much more involved in activism and stuff. I've been going to, I just did a talk the other night with Baratunde Thurston at the Brooklyn Historical Society. We did a 90-minute talk and Q&A on white privilege. That was like the title of it. And, all kinds of intertwining race and class and gender issues.
Well, it's very important at this time.
Yeah, well,
the summer we're having is just insane.
Yeah. Well, we actually booked the show, the talk, which was labeled white privilege. We actually booked it like 9 months ago.
So like before all this, and here we are.
Yeah, because it's not like it's not like race problems are new to the country.
I think you could pretty much
now,
bank horribly enough on something bad happening that would.
There will be something in the news we'll be able to talk about.
So with activism, and Ted Alexandra, who's a friend of mine, he's very big into activism.
Yeah.
And I remember when Occupy Wall Street was going on several years ago. I went down there with him a couple times, and I've gotten much more. And in my act, my act is, even though I do it in a satire kind of way, it's very, very activist also.
I need to,
Andrew's got to bounce.
Sadly, I have to leave. Matt's going to finish the podcast. Judah, it's been fantastic. You should watch wrestling sometime, my man. Thank you.
Sounds good, man. I do love wrestling. I need to go to a show. I haven't seen a show live
I think
in so long.
they're coming soon. They're going to be at MSG, and I think SummerSlam is here, so perhaps we'll see you there. But anyway, it's very great talking to you. I have to leave, but Matt will continue this podcast.
And I just want to ask, we'll probably wrap it up in a few minutes, but see you later. But is there a time recently, we have a segment called The Blow Off.
Yeah.
Is there a time recently when you have blown somebody off, or when you've used the excuse, sorry, I've been so busy, or an excuse similar to sorry, I've been so busy?
I do that all the time. It's never intentional. Like sometimes people will email me about a project and I don't get back to them, and it's never because I'm blowing them off. It's
Right.
always because I've forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And because I mean, right now what I'm trying to make is my own stand-up special.
Yeah.
I've been doing stand-up since '89. I still have not put out a special. I should have
Wow.
had 5 out by now, but for various reasons, I've turned them down.
You never did a half hour?
Never turned them down a couple times from Comedy Central. Turned down an hour from Comedy Central before. Wow. Turned down an hour from Netflix before. But so, anyways, I'm trying to make my own now, and I've been this comes into play where the OCD is again.
Yeah.
I've been filming sets every night for about 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
And I still have not edited anything together. I need to just like.
Do you have someone helping you with this?
A little bit, not too much. I'm kind of doing it like a solo, like one-man kind of show kind of thing. And so anyways, what I should be doing is in the next 2 weeks finishing this.
Yeah.
Because I actually have to start working on like an acting project coming up in August. So I need to finish this thing. And I've been working on it since like February or January, and I haven't finished it yet. Most people, in case people don't know, if they do a special, they film 1 or 2 shows and then it gets edited.
Yeah.
I've filmed like, probably 100 15-minute shows instead of filming 2 1-hour shows.
Yeah.
But so it'll be a little more documentary style.
Yeah.
But,
I see. So you're actually going to edit these shows into a special, you think?
I'm going to release it as something. I'm going to release it as something. I don't. You can.
So you're
call
not
it
just filming these as like to watch them and see what.
No, this is going to be a project to put out there.
Well, that's awesome. That could be a different kind of stand-up.
Yeah. So, but I need to finish it because that's one of my things. Is like, like I might have jokes on a certain topic, and then 2 months later, I've added 2 jokes to that, and I'm like, well, then I can't use that old stuff, even though it was a great set. I have 2 new bits for it now, but it's like stand-up is like it's never finished.
No,
but if you're putting out a video or a stand-up film or an album, you have to just put it out there and then move on. So I have a lot of trouble doing that. So that's my main project now. So when people, like earlier I talked about, 2 possible film projects and this web series possible project, it's like I should be working 12 hours a day just editing my stand-up project, but I'm not because I get sidetracked. So I just tell people, sorry, I'm going to try to find the text where I actually.
But what about like, okay, you were working on 30 Rock, like that's a network show.
Sure.
Like, that's like, hundreds of people working on that. Like for that, you knew when it was and where you had to be and when, and you were there, and it wasn't like that wasn't disorganized, right? I mean, you were like, because that's a clockwork production, and you were like, when it came to like being organized and on the same wavelength as them, you were organized enough to like do your work and get it done.
But they do, there's probably 200 people or 100 people working on that show.
Yeah.
So, I get the script, and I actually did make all my hats on that show. I didn't answer that question earlier.
Right.
I actually bought the supplies, and not only did I come up with all the hats, I actually physically made all of them because I didn't want NBC to own them. I wanted me to own them because they were mine. So
But my point is, you're not getting an email that's like, Judah, you have to be at so and so place at 8:30 tomorrow, and then just like not read it for 3 weeks. Like you're not.
No. I would show up. Yeah. But but I'm saying they do a lot of that organizing for you.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was producing that show and scheduling things.
Yeah.
That would be different, And then, but when I did that show, so many other parts of my life would get more organized because I'm just working on that show all the time.
Oh, wow.
So any other kind of just busy work you got to do, a lot of it just gets forgotten about.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm trying to let me go through some emails here. I can probably find some emails
this is really, we're deep diving. I love it. This is great.
I probably have some emails here where I didn't get back to somebody in so long.
Where Judah's scrolling through his
Well, I think I actually had a Twitter message. So, yeah, and sometimes it totally backfires on you because someone sends you a Twitter message, and yeah, I remember there's one guy who's a radio host. He messaged me about wanting to do some kind of a stand-up gig somewhere, and I just looked at it because I listened to something he did recently. I liked it, so I wanted to send him a message, and I looked on there and I realized, oh wow, he sent me a message in 2013, and I never got back to him. And then but I still wanted to send him a message. So, yeah, so I go, hey, it's Judah. First up, apologies for not getting back to you on Twitter from 3 years ago. And I say, I'm guessing I must not have seen it initially. And then I say, I just want to say, what you did last week was great. So, and I haven't heard back from him. So,
yeah.
So he might, I mean, I don't know.
He
might
have given up on you.
Right, exactly. But maybe not. I don't know.
That's a crazy thing where it was like, I've noticed that with Twitter and Facebook, like it saves all the old messages. So I actually went recently to send someone a Facebook message, and I realized that the last contact we'd had on Facebook was like 5 years ago. Like I had sent them a message and they never responded. Yeah. And I was like, have I waited enough time that I'm allowed to go again, or right. Like or is it just like, oh, I'm not allowed to, because they're going to see it. They're going to go on and they're going to see, and it's going to look like I'm harassing them, even though it's 5 years between the two. It's going to look like that. Yeah, no, I'm very honest with it, and I tell people it's like, I mean, that's one of the things, like, I've been trying to be, like, more productive, because I'm someone who's always working, but I'm usually getting very little done. Yeah. Because my mind's just kind of scattered in so many different directions, and I'm not, like, focusing on one thing. And so I'll remember, there's this busy work thing I got to do here. And then before I finish that, I remember, there's 3 other things I got to do here. So I'm constantly going back and forth and often not finishing any of them. So my organization is just not naturally good. Well, you're somehow managing to get a lot of things done somewhere. Yeah,
I'm doing okay, but if I was organized, I would be doing. Yeah. I think I would
it's hard
be doing
to imagine
much
what
better.
else you'd be doing other than doing stand-up.
Well, I think I would have had, 4 specials out by now and an album, so I'd probably have a bigger, stand-up following. Yeah. I mean, there's still some people who I think I started doing stand-up after 30 Rock. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's always going to be with anything that's going to be the case.
That could
though.
be.
There's people who, God, who was I? I was literally just talking to somebody or reading an interview with somebody where they said, like, they thought, it was somebody who was like a very well-known stand-up, and they thought people did, there's people who probably, see like Aziz Ansari's show and be like, and see him, he's getting into stand-up. It's like, no, that guy's been doing stand-up for a long time.
Right.
Awesome. Well, the book is called If the Raindrops United. I assume it's on Amazon and in bookstores.
Yeah, if there's any bookstores left in America, they should have it.
There are. I was just in one.
Good.
Recently, so yeah.
Where was it?
I was in LA when I was out there. I went to a bookstore in Larchmont Village, and I actually bought a book. I haven't read it yet, but I don't know if you know Steve Healy. He's like a comedy writer.
I know that name. Yeah.
Did he write on 30 Rock? He may have written on. He wrote on The Office and some other stuff.
I certainly know his name.
Steve's getting a plug. I read. He wrote a travel book that I bought. I haven't read it yet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Judah's got the book. If the Raindrops United, he's doing stand up in New York. You can see him everywhere all the time.
Yeah, I had. I'm doing some road stuff. Yeah. I got. I'm doing Burlington, Vermont at the end of this month on the 29th and 30th.
Yeah.
And then August 5th, I'm actually doing a gig in the Hamptons. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
That should be interesting.
That's where Alex is into that. That's his.
Oh yeah. So, okay. Yeah. I've been there twice before, and it was both times for shows. So I've never hung out there. I've never really seen.
You don't
just
really
kind of
seem like a
get in and get
club
out
type.
Yeah, it just seems opposite of what I would.
I agree.
Normally do. So, and then shows nightly in New York City. Yeah. I don't post my New York City shows online.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do many clubs. Is there time to plug those or no?
Sure. I mean,
But I mean, if you want to see me do shows in the city, I would check the Comedy Cellar's website, the Stand's website. And then there's a few other clubs I do pretty often. Gotham I sometimes do on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And then there's I do some shows out in Brooklyn once or twice a week and Lower East Side, and those are like free shows.
This is like that time of year where it's like college kids are like coming to New York for the summer and they just want to go see stand up, and it's like if you go like 3 nights in a row to like different clubs, like you'll see Judah.
Right. Okay. Cool. I'm out there. I'm out there doing stuff.
Cool. Anything else, or at Twitter, obviously, and
I'm Judah World Champ on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah.
So my upcoming it's either going to be like a special or more of a documentary style, but some kind of a stand-up, video or film presentation. It's going to be called "America is the Greatest Country in the United States," which is one of my jokes and is sort of like an underlying theme of this current stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
And then I think people should write me in for president. I think.
I mean, look, they're not happy with the options, so why not?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, and what's your friend's name who's in the Olympics?
Oh, yeah. Her name is Wu Yue. It's, and she's on Instagram. It's WUYUE. Table tennis
and now
on
people
Instagram.
Can follow her.
And I have another friend I'll give a shout out to. His name's Tal Leibovitz. He's from Queens. He actually has a disability, and he's on the Paralympic team.
Oh, awesome!
And this is his 5th Paralympics, I think.
Wow!
So he'll be going there too.
That's cool.
So
yeah. All right, thanks, Judah.
Thank you so much.
This
has been
Andrew.
really cool.
Thank you, Alex, and
congrats to you on everything, man. I've seen you start from,
start from nowhere and gone to almost nowhere.
A new guy in town, and you're doing great, dude.
Thank you. Stay busy, everybody.
All my boys thinking I'm tripping. When they call, I ain't answering. They only get my voicemail 'cause I'm busy. Whenever I get with her, say I'm busy. And I'm gonna hit you later 'cause I'm busy. Busy with her.